Come on in, guys. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about Survivor's most meh twists. They are not particularly great, they're not egregiously awful, they're just sorta there. You forget about them the second they're gone. They're like the shins of Survivor. Survivor's had some insanely memorable twists over the years. Even casual fans probably remember Redemption Island or Exile Island, and some twists like tribe switches are so good they've been rightfully baked into the show for 30 plus seasons. But sometimes things just don't land. And that's totally fine. I'd rather the show take risks and mix it up rather than getting staler than day-old bread. But I'm also gonna poke fun at it too. That's kind of my thing, you know? But it's with love. Before we get into it, I'm not going to be including advantages, even though the line between twist and advantage is ever blurry, so no legacy advantages or 50-50 coin flips here. Nothing that can be played at Tribal Council. These will all strictly be in the realm of twists that adjust the format of the game in some way. And in a little twist of my own, I'll be talking about 6 twists instead of 5. All that said, let's dig into 6 Survivor twists that landed with a resounding At number 6 is the summit in Survivor Millennials vs. Gen X. In what is perhaps the most, oh yeah, that happened, moment in Survivor history, in episode 3 of Millennials vs. Gen X, 4 members from each tribe were chosen by random rock draw to represent their tribe at a tribal summit, ostensibly designed for the tribes to intermingle and build connections for the upcoming swap. And Chris is extremely excited that the word summit means summit.
On the boat, the word summit kept popping up in my head, and for me that is a meeting of, like when different countries come and they have a G8 summit.
I also love when words have meaning. Unfortunately, this summit is just completely pointless. 3 of these people don't even make it to the merge. Paul doesn't even make it to the end of the episode. At the swap, literally none of these inter-tribe connections are paid off because all 3 Gen Xers who make the swap together. Taylor and Figgy are sent to another tribe, and Jay and Will are sent to other tribe. Everyone's understandably tight-lipped about what's going on at their camp. And aside from David and Jay, none of the main characters of the season even end up here. There's not even a measly idol clue to distract us. For all that, though, it's hard to call this a bad idea. The season just broke perfectly to render this completely moot. The whole scene could be excised from the season, and you wouldn't even know the difference. It's always nice to get more scrambling David, and the 2 sentences Cece say here constitute like half her screen time. But the G8, this ain't. At number 5 is the change to how tie votes function in Survivor Game Changers. In Game Changers, Jeff and co. decided to mix up how tie votes played out, skipping the revote entirely and going to an open forum where players must reach a unanimous consensus on who exactly to vote out, or else they've got to draw rocks. The revote's been Survivor's go-to tiebreaker for pre-Final 4 ties since Season 4, ever since they realized that using past votes and nature quizzes as the tiebreaker weren't exactly the most compelling television. Now, my guess is that this was intended to be part of a larger overhaul of the functionality of the show, like how the new Game Changers jury format stuck around. But it was retired after no tie votes took place through the entire season, and they presumably realized that robbing the show of a perfect made-for-TV moment, like someone flipping on a revote, wasn't the smartest idea. Ultimately, I think this was a solution in search of a problem. I'm not sure why you'd think of infamous moments in Survivor history, like Cochran flipping on the revote in South Pacific, for example, and decide, less of this. But hey, gotta keep those game changers on their toes. Not like all those tribe swaps, tribe expansions, immunity idols, legacy advantages, joint tribal councils, advantage menus, vote steals, new final tribal formats, and Cochran's on a boat are gonna do that. At number 4 is the kidnapping twist, fittingly first used in the pirate-themed Survivor Pearl Islands, and also later used in All-Stars, Cook Islands, and China. In this twist, the reward or immunity-winning tribe can choose one member of the opposing tribe to come live with them, abstaining them from a pre-merge tribal council, where the kidnappee will both be unable to vote at tribal, but also unable to be voted out. In its first use in episode 4 of Pearl Islands, the Morgan tribe bafflingly choose Rupert Rupert to kidnap, sparing the person Morgan believes to be the strongest Drake competitor from a potential elimination at Drake's first tribal council. Oh, yeah, Savage, in this game, actually, you usually want to leave the big threats open to be voted out. Okay, so they actually choose him so that he'd help them fix their shoddy camp, which he genuinely does. During his kidnapping, Rupert convinces Morgan to move their entire camp like 10 feet inland to avoid the high tide. Ironically, the only time in Survivor history that Rupert's advocated not having a waterlogged shelter on the beach, and it was for his enemies. The kidnapping twist came back in Survivor All-Stars, where Shapira kidnapped Kathy in episode 7, bringing her along on a booze cruise reward, where Tom does this, but not much else happens. Again, a kidnapping happens in Cook Islands, with I2 getting to listen in on Raro's tribal council, then before the votes are cast, getting to choose which player to save from elimination. Is there anyone at all, who seems to not fit in, who's disrupting tribal harmony, who's just been trashed by the rest of her tribe for the last 10 minutes, that you guys might want to save?
Oh, she was angry. You know, people in our group plain out said, "You're annoying."
Her personality, it just clashes with ours. She can't change that. That's just the way she is.
The way the feelings were with the tribe, I mean, how can you say something and not offend her?
I2, who are you going to kidnap? Nate.
Well, not who I had in mind, but I suppose it all worked out. And finally, kidnapping played a major part in the pre-merge of Survivor China, finally fully integrated into the pre-merge portion of the game. Through the pre-merge of Survivor China, the reward-winning tribe got to choose someone from the losing tribe to join them, and the kidnapped player received an idol clue they could give to someone on the winning tribe. The kidnapping finally actually matters, especially when Fei Long kidnaps James, who gives Todd the idol clue, leading to James having both the Fei Long and Jianhu idols. Still, it's somewhat baffling to me that they used this twist 4 times, as outside of its final use in China, it never really seemed to affect much of anything, and no one ever used the extremely obvious strategy of kidnapping the weakest player on the other tribe to spare them from an early exit. God, you'd think these people had never kidnapped anyone before. Rookies. At number 3 is the hero duel in Survivor San Juan del Sur, an apparent last-minute replacement for Redemption Island, thank goodness. You're forgiven if you completely forgot that in San Juan del Sur's pre-merge, team-based reward challenges weren't a thing. Rather, players faced off against their loved ones at the hero arena to win reward for their tribe, sending the not-so-heroic loser of the duel off to Exile Island. Now, don't get me wrong here, I'll take a duel any day over Redemption Island, but watching Wes and Julie win something called a hero duel just doesn't exactly ring true to me, you know? On top of that, after the swap, these just become regular old duels between players, like in episode 6 when Reed and Baylor face off, which lack any emotional weight the twist might have had, which already wasn't much.
John, what's this like for you to not only lose, because that's tough for anybody, but you're losing to your girlfriend, now you're going to exile.
Remove the friend part, I'm losing to a girl.
Wow, it's true what they say, Survivor really does spur emotional growth. Interestingly, it was future Survivor player Mike White who Jeff credits with killing Redemption Island for good this season, a pretty Goliath move. Jeff apparently had Mike White over for dinner shortly before production began in San Juan del Sur and told him that Redemption Island was back for season 29, and Mike White's face dropped so hard that Jeff went and scrapped the whole idea just a few weeks before they were to start shooting. So they just converted their already built Redemption Island arena into a hero arena and converted their already built Redemption Island duels into hero duels. Hey Mike, you want to go to Jeff's house for dinner again anytime soon? At number 2 is the tribe leader twist, particularly its iteration in Survivor Samoa. The tribe leader twist was used somewhat memorably in episodes 1 of Cagayan, Worlds Apart, and Ghost Island, but it's ironically its full season utilization in Samoa that is its most meh deployment. At the beginning of Samoa, each tribe elected a leader who would make important decisions for the tribe, like who to sit out of challenges, who would do which parts of challenges, who would sit out of rewards and get sent to observe the other tribe instead, and so on. And in perhaps our first sign of Foafoa's poor judgment, they pick Mick. Now, I'm only going to bring this up because when else will I get to talk about Mick? But he has probably the strangest CBS biography of any Survivor player ever, full of increasingly bizarre absurdities and non sequiturs. I'd highly recommend you go check it out. Screw it, here are some of my favorite parts. Smart, funny, charming, and a doctor, Mick is every single woman's dream and every single man's nightmare. In addition to reading trade magazines, he enjoys the Wall Street Journal, Time magazine, and the ones hidden underneath his mattress. Definitely a conversationalist, topics that are off limits to Mick are ridiculous situations that people find themselves in, and he absolutely refuses to talk about the sexual escapades of people's grandparents. Mick, you feckless, saucy minx. While Galoo picked the rather leadery Russell Swan as their leader, who much of the tribe actually deferred to and respected, Mick tried to lead for like a day. Then when the first vote didn't break exactly his way, he ended up fading into the background the rest of the season, like a well-hidden girly magazine. I do actually like the idea of a full season tribal leader twist, with the leader getting power, but also consequences for misusing that power. But circumstances beyond the show's control, like Mick being chosen as Foafoa's leader instead of Jason or Marisa or Liz or Russell or Betsy or Natalie or anyone else, doomed this twist to landing about as well as Mick's CBS biography. Survivor's most meh twist ever is, you guessed it, the Medallion of Power in Survivor Nicaragua. The Medallion of Power allows the tribe that holds it to use it for an advantage in a challenge, after which it will be given to the opposing tribe, who can hold it or use it at the next challenge, and so on and so forth. This twist exists presumably because Nicaragua was divided by age, with a tribe of under 30s and a tribe of over 40s, so something was needed to even the challenge playing field for the older folks. I totally get what they were going for. When one tribe has like 12 good knees between the 10 of them, you've got to even things up a bit. But the medallion is only used twice during the season, first by Espada in episode 2, where their advantage is literally sitting Dan out of the challenge, then by LaFleur in episode 4, where they get to start with 2 items already collected during the blindfolded item collection challenge. That's it! One thing that makes the Medallion of Power so infamously lame for Survivor fans is that it was so hyped up in the preseason, has such an imposing and mighty name, and then allows you to, like, not have to collect a camping chair and a pillow during a challenge. It impacted next to nothing and is even limply retired in episode 5 and literally never mentioned again, a rare acknowledgement from the show that it simply wasn't working.
Old versus young is done. Medallion of Power, done.
I'm actually somewhat confused that Jeff is on the record as calling this the worst twist ever, when there are so many more egregious ones to pick from. For me, it's pretty impossible to be offended by the Medallion of Power. At its worst, all it did was telegraph which tribe was going to win immunity, making the challenge a little boring. And at its best, it got Shannon voted out a round earlier, making the season a little less homophobic. Actually, that's pretty great. Got nothing else for you. To help me get the medallion of views, like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.